what's going on, everybody? Welcome and thanks for tuning into this week's Productive Agent Podcast. My name is Tony Ruiz. I'm the founder and host of the Productive Agent Podcast and Facebook group. Today, we are here at Watershed Church, and I'm joined by my good friend and lead pastor of Watershed Church, Dr. David Miracle. How's it going?
Hey, good. Hello, everybody out there in podcast land.
Yeah. But welcome to podcast land.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's not my first rodeo, so gotten to do this a few times with other people for other things.
Yeah.
So.
And we just had lunch over at Chester's. So if you're in the San Antonio area, I got to give a plug to Chester's Hamburgers, right?
Absolutely. They're
so
really
it's
good.
Delicious as always. And you were listening to your own podcast. So you're a podcast fan.
I love the podcast. Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
A lot of fun.
Obviously, we do a video as well. So this lives on YouTube and just kind of repurposing this.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, there was a message that you had several weeks ago that just kind of inspired me, like, I think I need to bring David on the podcast. He could talk about the MBS profile. It'd be really cool because it's all about personality traits,
right.
Knowing who you are a little bit deeper, knowing
Sure.
the people that are closest to you, be able to communicate with them better.
Right. Sure.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, let's find out who David Miracle is.
Okay.
Take
great.
us back to day one to now.
Well, I was born. No, I'm not going to go back there. Basically, Watershed Church was started 8 years ago. Long story, but I'll make it short in that we started a church. We're located at 9315 Broadway, and it's been a fun thing, very contemporary, very casual, very Christian, and we really love the church and the work that we do here. I do a lot of counseling and coaching. That's kind of my trade, education background, and so having a lot of fun with that. But basically, I surrendered to ministry back 37, almost 38 years ago, so I'm an old man now.
1984.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just before I graduated
That's when I
from
was
high
born,
school.
by the way.
Okay, really. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. And so surrendered to ministry right around 84, 85, somewhere in there. And then ended up graduating from college, went to Texas Tech University, and a little plug for my Red Raiders there.
What is it, Recom Tech?
Yeah, Recom Tech.
Yeah.
And then after we graduated, I married the love of my life, Lori, and we've been married for 32 years.
Nice.
And she's been with me on this journey all along. We've moved from one church to the next through the years. I was a youth minister for 10 years, done lead pastor job ever since then. We have 3 daughters, Abby, Bethany, and Mariah, and I have 7 grandchildren, all under the age of 7. It's a wild ride at our house. But we're having fun. My wife and I, when we started Watershed, we were kind of in a little bit of a crisis. Again, another story, but we were in a little bit of a crisis, and we needed to move from our house to another house. And I'd heard about this idea of home equity line of credit and moving some equity to another house. We didn't really want to sell the house of our family that we had raised our kids in and all of that. So I proposed to my wife that we rent it out, use some of the equity, and buy another house and fix it up. And it's kind of history from there because I've done a lot of real estate since then.
Yeah.
And but it afforded us the opportunity to hang on to that home until our hearts had worked through the emotion of what we were dealing with.
Okay.
And we bought and sold another house, and then bought and sold another house, and then I kind of got the bug, you know. So obviously, pastoring and leading church is my real heart and my passion. Sure. But I tell everybody I do short-term rentals and real estate and other things to support my habit of working at the church. Church pays me a great salary, but I just do things mainly to keep my head straight and work out stress and other kinds of things. So that's kind of a little bit of how I've kind of gotten to where I'm at. I do have a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree, and have all the credentials to be a licensed professional counselor. Chose not to be a licensed person because I don't want the federal government or state or anybody telling me what I can and can't say, because in my opinion, I'm a pastor, I'm a Bible-believing person, I have a higher authority, you know, and so I turn to that authority often and try to draw wisdom from him instead of other things. And so So I guess that's kind of my bent, where I'm coming from.
I love it. That was great. You crushed it. I'm going to give you a little plug here.
Okay, go ahead.
So a good friend of ours, Jim Ragsdale, who attends church here, he introduced us, and Jim invited me to go golfing one day, and he's like, hey, this is my friend David, and I didn't think anything of it, as I didn't know you as a pastor or anything like that, and I think what I love about who you are deep down is, yes, you're a man of Christ, and that is your passion, and that's what you've chosen to do, but you don't vomit all over people about it. I mean, like your message is there, and your meaning is there, and it's true, but like, you are just a good man, living life.
Thanks for that.
And sharing the message, and I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that you saying that. That's humbling. I also appreciate that you can hit the golf ball straight, because I cannot.
Well, most of the time it goes straight. If we're living good, it's going straight. Yeah. But yeah, no, and then there's so much to learn, because I didn't know that you were into the real estate thing, and obviously when we met, I was in full-time realtor mode and kind of getting started. It was about 3 years ago or so, or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm all about the real estate thing. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what do you got? So talk to us a little bit about, since this is a real estate podcast and all that, talk to us a little bit about your, you mentioned it a little bit, but how you got into the real estate thing. What do you like to do? Talk to us about that.
Okay. So we, actually, when we first moved to San Antonio, I was pastoring another church, and I pastored there for 15 years. Loved it, and but the first year we were there, the church couldn't afford to pay me a full salary. So we lived upstairs in old Sunday school rooms with my wife, my 3 kids, a dog, and a cat, in an old Sunday school building room,
How big was that space?
4,000 square feet. But from a real estate agent standpoint, 4,000 square feet in Alamo Heights is a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
Especially when it's free.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So
sure.
It was a great deal. It really worked well for us. We were there, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, 12 months, something like that, until we found a house that we could buy. We bought a house in Terrell Hills. Mm-hmm. And it was a fixer-upper for sure, and we just committed to fixing it up. These numbers, we'll laugh at them now, but I bought a house in Terrell Hills for $121,500 that was almost 3,000 square feet and had a second rental in the back.
What year was that?
That was 2000.
Yeah.
And we closed on January 16th, 2000. So, of course, it couldn't do that today, right? In these markets and the numbers that we have today. But, that was a long time ago too. 23, 24 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, but
salaries were different.
Yeah,
money
salaries
was different.
Everything was different because I didn't make as much as I do today. But prices were lower, and so. Today I can't even afford a dozen eggs. I mean, the prices are outrageous.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we were in this little bit of a crisis in our family, and we knew that we needed to move. So we discovered the home equity line of credit, which I do not recommend for everybody. It's not necessarily the best thing since sliced bread. Don't believe what social media tells you. It's not. It's a lot bigger deal than you think, and it's not that easy. But it is a viable option for some people. And so we did a home equity line of credit, bought another fixer-upper, and lived in that house for 4 years, fixing it up.
And you fixed up most of the stuff, just you and Lori? Some help?
Actually, our claim to fame on that particular house is that we staged it completely with goodwill. We staged the whole house. And
wow.
So that was pretty cool that we were able to do that, and then we turned that house, we flipped it, and but we, it's one thing to buy a house and flip it in about 6 months, but living in it, that's another animal, because you're having to live in all the sheetrock dust and the paint, and and then we have 3 little girls and they're running around all over the place, and then a former friend, former real estate agent friend of mine, called me and congratulated me on, selling our house. And he said, I just wanted to also thank you for recommending me to your neighbor. And I said, well, what do you mean? I didn't recommend you. We've just met, we've done one deal together. I don't do that, Right. And so he said, well, your neighbor 2 doors down said that he wanted to use me to sell his house. And I said, well, that's good for you. That's great. Which house was it again? And he told me, and I said, call him back and tell him I'll buy that house. And I'd never done that before, Tony. My wife and I always talk about everything, but this was a deal. It was a deal, And I'd also already been in the house, and I knew it was a disaster. In the real estate world, basically about 3% of people are willing to buy a really bad fixer-upper and live in it. Most everybody wants it already all fixed up, shiny, and pretty. But you pay for that too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so we bought that house. My wife hadn't even seen it when we bought it. And we went in and got in there, and it was so bad, Tony, that the plumbing inspectors, the city inspectors and people, they wouldn't even go in the house. There was a dead dog in there. There was some toilets that were really bad. It was a disaster. Yeah. The pest control guys went up in the attic, and he said, name an animal. And I started naming raccoons, rats. He said, everything that you can imagine is in this attic.
What did Lori say when she found out all this information?
She was really excited. She's a player. I mean, she's in it. She gets it, and she loves the whole real estate world and fixing up and doing the decor and remodeling. And we really like to try to make a house live who it is instead of trying to make it something that's not, or making it something trendy,
Yeah.
And so that's a really fun thing for us. It's the whole concept of restoration and bringing it, and God does the same thing with us, which I could preach a sermon about that, but I won't. It's not this podcast anyway. And so we love that whole thing. So when we did that, we also realized, well, we could buy another house, and we could, buy a small house and start, getting it ready. So we bought a house not too far from the church here, and we were so excited. We were going to flip this house. It was going to be our first real flip. We didn't ever live in it. We just bought it. We were going to turn it around, and we got ready to flip it, and we realized that our insurance numbers and our square footage numbers, they didn't jive. It was a little bitty small mistake of 150 square feet, but it was a $20,000 mistake.
Yeah.
Those things happen. Be careful out there in real estate world. And so, so we realized if we sell it, we're gonna just give it away.
Right.
We're gonna have done all this work for nothing because we won't make any money. And so we decided to keep it, which thrust us into the short-term rental market. And trying to figure out Airbnb and VRBO and or Verbo now, and Furnish Finder and all those things. So that was kind of an interesting piece, And since then, we've done a couple of other flips. We've bought other real estate and done the same thing. We're kind of, I've done a wholesale. I've done a seller finance. I've done, a couple of different things. It's been a lot of fun,
You should just get your real estate license as well.
Yeah. No.
You know a few of those.
Yeah, I do.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. No, I appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
And I always want to pick your brain because that's something that I desire to do down the road. I got my house right now, and I have quite a bit of equity, but I'm not quite there to 20%. I'm real close already, less than a year.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, that's sweet. So once I can do that, I can look into the HELOC. I've already talked to them about it.
Yeah.
I was like, take some of that money and go buy a little rental property and start that again.
And right now, even a little rental property is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And then you talk about interest rates of 6, 7, 8%, which the normal market people, that's all they can get, you know. That makes deals almost impossible. The ARV is just really hard, Yeah. So.
Well, cool. I'm going to continue to pick your brain.
Okay,
as we go
great.
on all that.
That's awesome.
But no, that's very, very cool. So we talked about your real estate experience. Let's get into a little bit about counseling and coaching.
Okay.
I know that you just did a series with the Dave Ramsey stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that, money management, helping people figure those things out.
So I'd heard about Dave Ramsey forever and ever and ever. And as a pastor, they're always plugging church and those things. And so I'd heard about him, but I'd never done it. So a couple of years ago, I decided, hey, I'm at some point going to do Financial Peace University. So I did it, and a little over a year ago, actually, and I loved it. It was amazing. It just so streamlined things for me. And I'm kind of an all over the place kind of guy, but it really streamlined and systemized some things for me. Made it easier for me, and the Every Dollar app and some of the stuff that they have really helped me to kind of get things together. And my wife and I did that together, and then I was given an opportunity by the Ramsey Solutions Group to teach a class. Actually, we still have, we'll probably have 2 more classes here at Watershed before September. And if you sign up with Watershed Church, then you get to be in it for free. And you get you all get all the apps and everything, all the materials, everything for free if you go through Watershed. So
if they wanted to do that, if the listener wants to do that, they can. Is there a link in the Watershed Church website, or how would they do that?
Well, there can be.
Yeah.
With a couple of more moments notice, there can be.
Sure.
I'm probably going to do a class this summer.
Okay.
And then I'll do another class in the early fall.
Okay.
And I'll get it started before that September date finishes, and then we'll run over, and we'll probably buy another year of that opportunity and just keep going because it pays for itself. It's amazing.
Okay.
So I've worked with Dave Ramsey a little bit, not him personally, of course, but the organization, and just actually got authorized to be a preferred coach with the Ramsey Association. So
cool. Congrats.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cool thing,
Yeah.
So it would be like being a real estate agent and some brokerage somewhere is just sending you leads and saying, these are people who, want your help,
Right.
wow, that'd be nice,
Yeah.
So that's the coaching side. I do some other coaching, MBS Profile, which we'll talk about in a minute. I do some coaching with that, and I do quite a bit of counseling, marriage counseling in particular. Also do grief counseling because I do a couple of 100 funerals a year, helping families with the grief and loss that they go through. And so, there's a whole gamut of things. I've counseled with a few teenagers as well that are struggling with gender identity kinds of things. I've worked through anger issues, relationship issues. There's a lot of different books that I give away to help people with counseling.
This one's great.
Yeah, 5 Love Languages. I love that book. It's an oldie but a goodie. I think that's like the 5th revision or something.
Yeah.
But a lot of that. I do a little writing on the side as well. Have a lot of life experience and things, and so I never have actually finished. I've got one book that I finished, but I haven't finished any others. I got a lot on the table, but nothing that I've finished. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, got a lot going on.
Good. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show.
Okay, great.
This is the thing that kind of inspired me to reach out to you and set this up.
Sure.
Is the MBS profile. MBS stands for Management by Strength Personality Profile.
Right.
And I remember doing some counseling with you, and you had us take it, and I think I'm a blue. It's been a while. I think we're both blues, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny how
go blues.
you know everybody's color. You're like, yep, you're a blue, you're a red, you're green, and you. I'm sure you adjust accordingly, which we'll talk about. But talk to us a little bit about what the MBS profile is.
So again, back when my family was going through a little crisis, somebody introduced the personality thing to me for our family so that we could learn to communicate and work through some things better. And we found out what everybody's color was in our family and how that particular color operates. And it really helped our family. And so I went to the organization and I said, hey, this would be really cool if I could do this in my church, because we could do it for everybody who wants to serve. We could do it for our staff. We could do it, for elders and deacons and leadership team and coordinators and all those different things that we have. And they said, oh, well, for churches, our organization is actually a Christian organization. We actually do it for churches for free. Wow. And I said, sign me up. So they signed me up, and I've been doing it ever since, and actually interview people, and if we're going to hire somebody here at church, even a nursery worker, somebody's here for a couple of hours on Sunday and that's all they're here, up to our executive pastor and myself, our elders, everybody here does the personality profile.
Well, when you mentioned it was a handful of weeks ago, and I was like, I want to bring them on because it's really important to know your personality, to know your clients' personalities. I mean, we're in a business very similar, people business.
Yeah, people business.
And
yeah.
really almost every single business across the board is people business typically, right? So it's like, well, this could be applicable to anything and everybody, even the people that, follow us and that are not in real estate. It's like this would be a great thing to just know and learn and be able to use.
Yeah. I think the most powerful thing for me about MBS is that when you understand more about who you are, in my world, who God created you to be, when you understand more about that, and you understand something about the person or people that you're working with, like in your family or at work, in your little department of the business, or, a group of real estate agents, maybe, your group under you or the group above you or the broker that you're working with or whoever it might be, or even the families that you're working with trying to sell a house. When you understand something about their personalities, or you understand more about personality traits and can kind of begin to say, oh, I bet they're a so-and-so, a blue or a red or yellow or green,
right?
Then it kind of helps you to settle a little bit.
Makes everything easier.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, well, that guy's not rude. He's red, He's just being direct, and he's, matter of fact, and we just move right on,
Right.
Or that guy, that's driving me crazy. He keeps asking me more and more questions. I've answered all those questions so many times, and you just begin to go, oh, he's a yellow. He's got to have all the facts before he can pull the trigger.
Right.
When you understand that, then you can start feeding them the information that they need, or working with them in their genre so that they kind of get you and you get them,
Right.
That makes it really comfortable and really easy to get along,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about each one real quick.
Okay.
What the heck is, which one do you want to start with?
Sure, let's start with blues because it's my favorite.
Go blue.
Go blue. So blues are what we call PACE, and again, giving full credit to the Management by Strengths. You can find them online. But blues are what we call PACE, and pretty much a blue personality is harmony oriented. They pace out their day. I like to say that they are workers. They start early, they finish late, they work a long list, They pace themselves all day long. My wife teases me and says, you don't get in a hurry about anything, But then I come back at her and say, yeah, but look how much I got done, because I've paced myself out, kind of tortoise in the hare, right? The tortoise just kind of paces himself along, and he gets a lot done, right? He wins the race, actually. So that's kind of a blue. There's in the traits themselves. There's not any negative traits. Okay, they're all positive. They're strengths.
Yeah.
However, inside each one trait, if you don't manage it well, you can manage it in a negative way. Okay, so in the positive side of a blue, they would be harmony oriented. They would be a good listener. They would be a counselor. They would think before they speak. They work hard, they work a list, they're very methodical about how they work through their list. The negative side is that they sometimes repress their feelings, and they hold them in, and they don't share much emotion. And I like to say they have a very long fuse, but watch out when it gets down to the dynamite, because it's a boom, it's a big disaster. So that's kind of the downside of a blue. They can repress and blow up, and they don't like for people to interrupt their day. They've got it all set already, and if boss comes in and says, you got to do this now, or wife comes in and says, you got to do this now, you're like, because you have to readjust your whole day, and so that's kind of a blue.
Yeah. Well, cool.
So let me give you another one.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one would be the red. My wife says I pick on the reds all the time, but reds are good people. They're just different than blues, and that's probably, if there's any downfall of any one of the colors, we all like our color.
Sure.
But everybody else we struggle to deal with because they don't roll like we roll. You know? So reds are known to be, they make great CEOs, CFOs, people who really, call the shots, delegate a lot. They're very direct, okay? My middle daughter, is a red, and her sisters used to think she was so rude. But when we figured out our colors, they realized, oh, she's not rude, she's just red, and they realized that she was very direct. So you think, well, that's not a very good quality sometimes. The reds are those people in the room that say stuff and you can't believe they just said that, But the good quality about that is that they're willing to say it and put it on the table, because sometimes it needs to be said, and we're sitting over here in our blue selves holding it in, right? And so those reds will put things on the table that need to be said. They'll deal with things directly. The nice thing about that too is that you can deal with them that way. You can say, you can't do that, and they go, oh, okay. Now they may say, why not? They'll come right back at you. But you can just say, because I said so. Done, And they don't harbor feelings, where us blues kind of crawl off in the corner and go, they hurt my feelings, and I'm having to think about this. So the downside of a red is they really look for things to be good, not look good, not feel good. It has to be good. So maybe you got a team together and y'all have all come up with a marketing scheme or something like that. The red in the room will bypass saying anything good about what everything looks like, and will point out the one thing that's wrong, because it's got to be good, right? And so that kind of sets everybody on edge, and like, they always pick out the bad thing. Well, really what they're doing is showing you how it could be better, but they may not necessarily say it that way.
Gotcha.
They can also, in their personality, be controlling, right? Instead of just having issues of quality and control, which are good, they can be controlling or be really quality oriented that nothing is good, and therefore if nothing is good, then nobody is good, or nobody's good enough, right? So that's kind of the red. Then the other two of the colors, green and yellow. Green is the extroversion person. It's kind of the idea of being an extrovert, but not really, because there's lots of people who are green that are very shy, like my wife. My wife could do a podcast like this, but she would rather not. She can just be shy, And so I remember when my wife was doing women's ministry a lot, a lot of weekends of the year, I literally could help her walk to the stage. And the minute she took first step on the step up onto the stage, she was great. But up to that point, she was really shy. So greens can be shy. They can be extroverted, class clown kind of thing, but it's not always that. Greens really like being a team player. They want everybody to work together. Notice I didn't say get along. They don't have to all get along, but they want everybody to work together. Give you an example. As a blue, my wife and I clean house very differently. I clean house wanting to go from one end of the house to the other. I like for her to start in one end and me start in the other, and let's meet in the middle and let's get the task done, right?
Okay.
She would rather us start together in the same room and do the same project together. And she doesn't really care so much if we finish cleaning the house. She wants to be together, right? That's not bad. I like being with her too, know? But we have to decide, what is our mission here? Are we trying to clean the house, or are we trying to spend time together, when we work together? So that's kind of the idea of a green. The negative side of a green is that greens are really interested in things looking good, but not necessarily being good or feeling good. Okay? So when we say that they're interested or they desire for things to look good, they can tend to be deceptive. Like, it's good enough. It'll pass, and that's not really what was required. And if you have a red on the team, the red's going to say, no, that doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And the blue's going to be sitting over there in the corner going, oh, I can't believe the red just said that, and the green's in so much trouble. But they're not going to say it out loud, but they might try to bring harmony to the room, you can begin to see how they kind of work together, right?
Okay.
So the green might go that direction and try to keep things, let it look good. As long as we all did it together, we're great, okay? Then the last color is yellow. Yellows are very typically very fact-oriented. They want all the research done. They want to know everything. I've got some great son-in-laws. All three of my son-in-laws are yellows, okay? And if I need to know something about something, I'm calling my son-in-laws.
Sure.
Because they're going to do all the homework. They're not going to buy a car. They're not going to buy an appliance. They're not going to step over on something without first doing all their homework. Now then, I may have to encourage them to pull the trigger because they're going to be more hesitant because there might be one more thing that they haven't found yet, So yellows are very research fact-oriented, tend to hesitate. The good side of that is they know everything that there is to know about what they're about to do or buy or whatever.
No.
The downside is that they hesitate to pull the trigger because there might be one more thing, and so they miss opportunities, And you can see where that would play into being a real estate agent. You're working with a family, and one of the members of the family of the couple is a yellow, and they just need to know more things. And then in the market that we had last year,
Too late.
Yeah, too late. You waited an hour. Sorry, gone.
Yep, exactly.
And so the personality profile really does help. Again, credit to Management by Strengths. The organization's wonderful. They're a great Christian group of people, but they also do this same profile for Mercedes-Benz and American Airlines and big, huge corporate companies. And so they've done a really, really good job. And actually, the four colors follow the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so
really, they align with each one.
Yeah, they actually align with each four of those four disciples. So
that's interesting.
Another podcast, maybe, right? So, so the MBS profile is super good. It's been very helpful to me to kind of understand something about people's profile and how they roll, how they operate, especially in working with a couple. We're trying to figure out where the conflict is. It might just be that they have personality differences,
sure.
And they just are coming at it and they don't understand each other. And so in the MBS profile, the backside of the profile, I can show you stuff about your logic, how you think, your comfort level, where you struggle internally or externally. I can show you your energy level. I can put things together where a couple can actually see how they need to respond to one another so that it works better. So all of those things are readily available, and I can do all that right here in the office and help people to figure that out. Be happy to do it for any real estate agent or any couple, anybody out there that might hear this podcast.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I had a couple things as you were talking about that I didn't want to interrupt. But I do remember you saying that these are all features, not flaws.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and that's like stuck in my head. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, I think you're pretty much going, here's the good things about being a red, and here's the not so good things about being a red.
Yeah, or how it could be used incorrectly. Right.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
And the feature flaw quote is my wife's, not mine. I stole it from her.
It's a good one.
She reminded me that her emotions are not a flaw; they're actually a feature. So.
Good. I like it.
Yeah.
And as I'm thinking about that, are there certain colors that like attract you towards each other, or not necessarily?
No, not really.
And I'm not just talking about like a marriage or personal relationship, but like working or anything like that.
Well, I can tell you from working with our pastoral team and coordinators and elders and everybody here, we have all different colors. But the yellows get together and they have a little rah-rah session, or the blues, we get together and we have our little rah-rahs. And when we do this, sometimes I'll pitch it like I did a few weeks ago. I'll pitch it in a message, and we may have 10 or 15 or 20, maybe 30 people sign up to do the MBS profile, and we'll do it together, and then we'll all come together and we'll talk about it. And when I divide people up in the tables, it's interesting to see how they become very team spirited, but not the Reds. That Reds are just kind of like, no, I'm just independent. I'm good. I'm here. I'm doing my thing. And the Greens, you can't get them to quit talking because they're so excited to be together, right? And the Blues are all over there like, well, as long as everybody's happy, we're all good, And the Yellows are like, well, what's next? What else do we need to know? So it's pretty interesting to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know that any one color draws attention from the other or anything like that. Certainly in relationships, I've seen all kinds of mixes. But I do think the interesting thing is that I believe is that our personality doesn't change. I believe our personality is God-given, okay? Mm-hmm. But how we use our personality through life experience and, good or bad or ugly that happens to us in our life, we take that personality and those things, mix them all together, and we can learn some pretty negative behaviors with our personality, or we can learn some really positive behaviors with our personality. And we have to hopefully choose the positive over the negative, But sometimes we need a little coaching or a little counsel, a little wisdom to help us understand where we're at, what we're doing, or maybe we don't see it. Because it's hard to see yourself,
right?
Yeah. I mean, as an agent, sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
Sure.
We blow a sale because we just talk too much, or we didn't talk enough, or what I mean?
Shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I don't know if a color goes together necessarily, but certainly I've seen all different kinds of mixes.
Can you be a purple or an orange and a little mix of colors?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's a couple of other profiles out there, Myers-Briggs and the DISC. Enneagram is the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those are all great tools. I love them. But Enneagram, for instance, you have to know 8 different sections of personality and how it works and whether you lean left or right and all of that. The DISC is great, but they also do some of the, you got to kind of learn the letters and I'm just a pretty simple guy, I like, give me 4 colors and I can do it. Also the MBS can be done with just answering 60 quick questions. It literally takes some people like 20 minutes to do the profile, and it's almost deadly accurate. I mean, it's like so accurate. I even actually was counseling a young man and his wife at one point, and I thought he was wrong. I mean, I was just like, this is not right. The profile's wrong. He's wrong. Something's off here, because he was so different from the way he'd answered his profile. And I called the organization. And I said, I found one that doesn't work, and they said, no, here's what's going on. He's not being his true self.
Yeah.
He's so afraid of his wife that he's learned to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And everything that we had talked about for a year just all came crumbling down for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think I even learned a few more things.
Good. Well, hey, so I'd love, if you're okay with it, I'd love to put a link for the MBS or for Watershed, so that people could find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to do that for the agents that you work with or people who listen to the podcast. And I'll be a little Benny for listening to the podcast. We'll have to put it at the very, very end, right? Like they do on social media.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll plug that and we'll put it in the description, in the show link, show notes.
Yeah.
So we'll put all that up there and we'll share it. And maybe you could share the podcast and say, hey, here's it is. And
great.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, man.
Hope you'll have me back someday.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of wisdom that we could pick your brain about, and maybe we'll just talk about short-term rentals next time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I've got an opinion.
Yeah, you told me some stories. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I won't do it again. Hey, you can do it if you want to, but I'm not doing that again. So, yeah, there's several things.
Well, cool. I really appreciate you coming on. It was great chatting with you. And we'll definitely put those links up and make sure that we spread the word and help people learn their personalities, learn the people around them.
Well, thanks for letting me do all the talking.
No, you're really good at it.
Well, I do it for a living.
There you go. Well, guys, that's the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Lots of value there. Go to check out the MBS profile. Take it. Like you said, learn more about yourself so that you can help others and connect with others on a better level.
Yeah, and then they can actually contact me because I'll get a profile and I can help them do all the back stuff. They can come to my office and we can sit down and talk about it.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, very
happy
cool.
to do that.
So there you go. Reach out. We'll make sure that the link is there for you. So that's our show. Share the show. This is a great message. Think about any family or friends that you're like, hey, you should go check this out. I just did this profile. Here's the podcast that they talked about it. All those things. Share the show. That really helps us grow. If you're an agent or thinking about getting into real estate, please join us at the private Facebook group called The Productive Agents. And I think that is it. All of the stuff is in there. I got so wrapped up in the conversation, I'm not even following my notes here.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, share the show and also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm going to go and splice this up and put little shorts in there.
Great.
So try to spread the word even more.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. So we thank you for joining us today. Now let's get out there and go produce.